we wanted to be very transparent in our community. And so we gave a list of 19 books to our community and said, these are books that surfaced in our review. Please come and look at them, give the board feedback.
It's just a vanity metric is reach. It's the engagement in the community that matters most. I would say another big no-no is copying others. I've seen it too many times where, well, this brand does this and this works out well, let's try it. But that's not what works well for your brand.
One camper said, I thought it was just going to be cooking, but I didn't expect to make a new friend who is 80 years old. And then the people that organize the senior center said they have really witnessed a huge growth in vitality and a decrease in loneliness of these seniors who realize they have learned skills.
Yeah.
Somebody is listening to them and they're contributing. I just think it's a win-win every way you look at it.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the aptly named Mandy and Deb show.
And that's because this is my friend Mandy.
And this is my friend Deb. And we are here for you today, not just today, but well, all the time live on the internet on this here YouTube channel that you can subscribe to so you don't miss an episode. But today we're here to talk about some interesting stuff. If you've ever wanted to build your social media brand, whether you have a business or you want to just be an influencer, we've got someone for you.
Yes, I'm not too old to be an influencer.
You know what? Some influencers are old.
That hurt.
No, I mean like elderly. They're elderly, like
I'm just kidding.
Old.
Yes.
I mean, where's old for you?
I don't know.
What's the number now?
It's getting older and older all the time.
It used to be 36 for me. When I was in high school, I remember thinking how old 36 was. Now I'm 56. And old is getting like almost triple digits.
Yeah, I think old is about 87. That's
You know what? That's fair. Because my mom is 81, but she's dynamite. She's in great health.
I love it.
So now I don't even think it's 81 being old.
You know, as we often say, we're not spring chickens. We're summer chickens. That's how I look at it.
I like that. We're not fall chickens just yet.
Just yet. I don't think so. And on top of it, because we are going to be approaching and are approaching back to school season, many of you may already be there. We're going to talk about what's in your kids' library and how do you know. So one other thing we want to say before we start, follow us on social media.
Yes.
On Facebook at
Mandy ampersand fancy. Think fancy
yes.
Deb. And you can follow our Facebook page and make suggestions and talk to us and say nice things and share it with your friends.
Exactly. We want to hear from you too with the things you want to hear about. So we're going to kick it off because as we all know, Mandy and Deb have issues.
We always have issues, but we also know good people to talk to our issues about.
We do, absolutely. So we're going to kick it off with a great guest. And if you're in the Colorado area, right from Elizabeth School District, the superintendent is Dan Snowberger. We've been friends for a while. He's doing great work for all of the families and students in that area. And he's got some great insight about how to find out what is in your kid's school library. We're not talking about the other libraries, your school library. And he's got an interesting story to tell about what he and his school district have been through in this process. So Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Oh, great. It's great to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Can I kick this off by asking, one of my big frustrations as of late, Dan, is the sort of conflating, taking careful measures to make sure that age-appropriate books are in school libraries with banning books. Because we're talking about two very different things here. And I kind of would love to hear you expound on the difference in your view.
Absolutely. You know, it is our responsibility as school district officials to make sure that the materials in our library are appropriate. And that's key, as our libraries are accessed by a certain age group, depending on which library it is. So we in the Elizabeth School District, and I think many school districts across the state, really feel strongly that the books in that library should be appropriate for those children. And that's, you know, not only the books that are there, because we have books that were purchased 25 years ago that are still on our shelves. And then, of course, we're buying books today to continue to enhance our curriculum. So critical is age appropriateness, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of people tie this in with, sexually explicit, which may be some of the things that are in there. But when your school district did this, you found things that were not just not appropriate in that way, but there's some other things that were kind of alarming with suicide, drugs. Can you talk a little bit about that, the process and what you all found?
Absolutely. So we had parents who came to us with concerns about books that their children had brought home during the prior year. And that led us to have our curriculum review committee actually begin a full review of our libraries to look at what was in our library and were the books at the appropriate age level, again, elementary, middle, or high school. We did find books. We certainly found books, as you described, that have some pretty explicit sexual content that are not historical in nature, that are fiction, that honestly made me blush when I read them. Certainly not books that I would think would be appropriate in the library. But to your point, Deborah, we also found books about suicide with very graphic descriptions of how other children have committed suicide. We found books that described very graphically school shootings. And again, a lot of this type of content, planting that seed in the minds of children, is it really necessary? And so that was our deep concern. Graphic drug and alcohol use. Not every parent wants their children to be exposed to that type of content. And I think in Elizabeth School District, parental rights are extremely important to us. We want to make sure we empower our parents to raise their children and that we partner with them, that we don't take control of that.
Now, Dan, you guys have set up an entire process, a procedure on how you're going through these books. Tell me a little bit about that. Who makes up this committee? How can parents get on the committee if they want to argue for or against a certain book?
Yeah, it's one of our board committees, a curriculum review committee, and they were since the board had formed that committee, tasked with the review of library, because libraries, even in the standard board policy that most districts across the state have adopted, says that the library is an extension of your learning resources. And so that curriculum review committee is a committee made up of parents, of community members, of teachers, of administrators, and district level administrators, and a board member who just spent the time going through the book, using a variety of different web resources to look at books that maybe rose as concerns in other communities, books that had specific content. Again, sexual content was definitely a deep concern for our community. And so they began reviewing the books one at a time, split it up amongst several of the committee members, and then came up with that list of books. Some of those books were edgy topics that some parents may choose not to have their children read, and other parents may be fine. And we labeled those as sensitive topics. And a parent in our district can say, I don't want my children accessing sensitive topics. It means it may be things that might compromise my family values. Then we found books that we're talking about that were over the top, that didn't belong in the library, were way beyond the age appropriateness for the area in which they sat. And those books we brought to the community. So we wanted to be very transparent in our community. And so we gave a list of 19 books to our community and said, these are books that surfaced in our review. Please come and look at them, give the board feedback. We had 25 days of review, including some evening times. And our community overwhelmingly told our board, these books have no educational value. They're age inappropriate. Some of them are obscene. Some of them have content that certainly is not appropriate at the grade level where they appeared, and asked our board to remove them. And our board did just that. So we do have a process where parents can bring books to our attention, can say, hey, I think this book needs to be reviewed. And it would have, and we can talk a little more about that, it would have gone through the same process. And right now we're unfortunately on a hold because of some other legal challenges that have surfaced.
Yeah, and that's the thing I wanted to get to, because the process you went through was very thorough, and as Mandy
that
was
sounds
saying,
like the gold standard.
I know,
Actually, it's like, wow, you gave everybody the opportunity to really take a bite at this apple and weigh in and be heard.
It wasn't some random,
No.
frivolous act by one person. And this is really one of the things, Mandy, that we talk about is this is really kind of where it should be local control. You were talking about
Yes.
the community weighed in, teachers weighed in, stakeholders weighed in, and this was only a small fraction, 19 books out of how many? And that what percentage
50,000
was it?
50,000 books in our libraries and
And you
19
only
books
and you
were
only flagged
chosen.
19. So tell us about what happened afterwards, because actually Elizabeth School District, amazing people in Elbert County, Colorado, usually a more sleepy community in the right way, has been national attention because of what happened afterwards. Can you talk about that lawsuit?
Sure. Unfortunately, this decision to remove those books was made September 9th of 2024. On December 20th, I believe it was, we were served with notice that the ACLU was suing on behalf of two students in our community and their families, the NAACP and the Authors Guild, because of the removal of those books. So 4 months later, we were served a lawsuit on this topic, and so we have been defending ourselves vigorously. I think that the typical tactic is, sue a small school district and they'll quickly roll over. Our community is firmly behind our decisions that were made, and we're going to stand firm on this was the right decision. We did do a public process. We allowed the community to weigh in. It was not made by an individual. It was made by the overwhelming voice of the community. And so we are to this day still defending a lawsuit, and it's right now between the district court here in Denver and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. So we have a piece of that case right now pending before both courts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just wow. First of all, I commend you for doing everything that you guys have done, because as you're laying all that out, I knew about the lawsuit, but I did not realize the exhaustive process that you guys have put forward. And hopefully, when you win this suit, we're going to do the assumed close. Other school districts will say, great, that's the way.
Yes.
That's how we do it. That's how we try to balance the needs of parents who want their kids to have access. I'm trying to think of a way to say access to porn without being insulting, but I don't know if there is a way to say I don't know how to say that, versus the parents who are a little more conservative in their viewpoints and maybe don't want their kids exposed to such things at an early age.
Well, and this is different because this is in a school library where everyone is versus a public library where some parents can go and get that same exact book if they want it. Dan, two things as we wind up here. Number one is, where can people support you guys in this lawsuit if they want to? Because really, you will set a precedent for community members, parents, teachers to have a say in what's in their own school. So where can people support you?
Right now, our elizabethschooldistrict.org website, elizabethschooldistrict.org, we have information on there of where people can support us. We've had overwhelming support, Deborah and Mandy, which has really been reassuring to us that the communities across Colorado and across the nation have really rallied behind us. And obviously, we can never have too much support because this will be a long battle and a long argued case. So all the support that can help is really appreciated. I do want to say, though, back to the banning issue, is all of these books are available in our public library. They're available today. You can get it delivered to your front door by 4 a.m. in the morning if you order it online. And so these books aren't banned. Anyone can have access to them. We just feel strongly that a child wandering the library and pulling a book off the shelf without parental involvement, these books aren't appropriate in that setting.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to bring up is there was a recent Supreme Court ruling that said, I think it was the Mom Moved It's Taylor case, where parents have a right to have a say in the educational materials that their children are being exposed to, which simply just makes sense.
Right.
The fact that they had to go to the Supreme Court. Does this impact your case going forward?
It does. Actually, there's another case out of Texas, Little versus Lalano County, that is exactly our case, and the Fifth Circuit has just ruled in favor of the government-owned library removing books. And so, at this point, should we not be successful in our particular case, it will lead to a district split, which would cause the Supreme Court to need to weigh in. So we're excited because there are other court cases like this working their way through, and maybe ours will be the one to make it. But we're pretty confident at this point we should get this settled in the near future.
That's great. Well, we sure hope so. We'll make sure to list how people can support you. But thanks so much, Dan. Thanks for all you're doing. To the amazing school board members as well. I know many of them. They're good people.
And to the Elizabethans. They just want to be left alone. Some of my best friends are Elizabethans.
That sounds so historical.
I
That sounds
know.
like Shakespeare's period.
They don't wear fancy collars, not in Elizabeth, though.
Yeah.
They do not. They do not.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
steal
Dan.
that.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care. Thank you. Have a great night.
Great. Thank
Okay,
you.
now,
And
yes.
by the way, I just wanted to say, you bring up a good point. Before we go on to the fun stuff, we still have issues here to solve. But no, I just want to say, I think you bring up a great question. Anytime someone talks about a book that they don't think is appropriate for their child, they immediately conflate it with book banning.
Right.
And we've got to be bold enough to say, no, that's not the case. But when Dan was sharing this with me before, there were books for elementary school children that had suicidal step-by-step how to do that, or in middle school. Everybody can agree that a child shouldn't just be able to get that without their parents' permission. And maybe that's not appropriate for kids, period.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that because I remember I have always loved the library. When I was a kid, my mom would take us to the library like once a week. We were allowed to check out as many books as we wanted, but we had to take them all back the next week. So I think that's why I'm such a fast reader.
Right.
But there were so many times when I just wandered down the aisle of the library and I saw an interesting back to a book and I pulled it out and I discovered so many great authors and I discovered authors that I still love.
Yes.
Having that sort of joy of exploration. It's bad enough that we can't let kids on the internet because we don't know what's going to be there. But now you're going to tell me I can't let kids go to the library because they may pull a book off about suicidal ideation or with graphic pictures of how to give oral satisfaction to someone. I'm just got myself there.
Yes, you did.
Let's not
I will
talk about
toast
that.
you on that.
Thank
that was
you.
some good editing.
Thank you.
There
Yes.
you go.
Anyway,
all right, Mandy.
Let's move on.
Let's do
Fun stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, because
We've got stuff.
we've got stuff.
Yes. And this next guest, first of all, near and dear to my heart, but there's a familial relation there, but we'll talk about that later.
In all transparency.
But she works in an industry that so many people need to know about, first of all, and that is social media and influencers. Specifically, our next guest, Samantha Lay, is the founder of Nova Collective. She's worked in the influencer sphere for I don't even know how many years now, connecting brands with influencers and helping people grow their businesses using social media. And because I don't know anything about social media, and Deborah, do you know anything about social media?
I know how to click on, and I think I can do a little bit of posting, but no, this is why I am not yet a social media influencer.
But don't ask her to edit a tweet because that's like a bridge too far. That's not going to happen.
Help me, Samantha. Help me.
First of all, welcome to the show, Samantha.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you because something that is going on, and the reason I called you specifically was this. A friend of mine's daughter has decided she wants to be a social media influencer, and immediately all of these red flags went up in my head because working on the radio and being an influencer before influencers were a thing, you kind of know the ups and the downs, but this is where the action is. This is where ad dollars are going. This is allowing people to have these incredible careers that they wouldn't have been able to have before social media popped up. I mean, how many of the people that you work with just kind of came out of nowhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about my career path without social media, without this avenue, I would probably be working for a major corporation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's opened up the ability for many to find different avenues to have jobs essentially, right? So, I look at the industry as a whole, right? It's a 35 billion global influencer marketing industry. This is just in 2025. The US alone is nearing $6 billion.
Wow.
So to me, when I think of influencer marketing, it's no longer just a niche. It's a full channel. It's a full marketing channel that each brand and essentially influencers need to think of.
Yeah, and it's interesting because many of the people that watch your show may not think of themselves as influencers. First of all, I think it's important because it's really the public square of today.
Yeah.
But they may be small business owners. In fact, many women, I think most small businesses, from the majority from what I've read, are owned by women. Let's talk a little bit about how that works for small business owners also to get their brand out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest piece is being consistent, clear, valuable. You've got to really know who you're speaking to, right? So, as a brand in general, when we're sitting down as a marketing team, we're thinking of the buyer personas, and it really is the same with influencer marketing. I think showing up with the purpose, building trust and community. I think a lot of people think that the values in I need to get as many followers as possible, and this is both for brands and influencers. But the reality of it is that people just want an authentic, they want to follow somebody, whether it be a brand or an influencer, because it's authentic and it's real and they are engaging with the community. I think for brands, layering it in your overall marketing strategy instead of one off campaigns. So if I'm thinking from a brand perspective, they want to run influencer marketing. I've heard it so many times. I want to do a campaign. Okay, great. Do you want to do a one off campaign? Yes. And that to me is, it's like essentially doing 1 month of SEO and then quitting, right?
Right.
You're going to learn so much after that first campaign. And I think ultimately having a few under your belt really helps the brand run and scale, and really just optimize the brand. I think for influencers, knowing your audience, engaging with them, being real, I think curated is out and real is in.
That's funny you said that because when I try to help people build a podcast or whatever, one of the things I say to them over and over and over again is perfection is the enemy of authenticity.
Yes.
And when you screw up or you cough or you burp or whatever it is, like if it's charming enough, leave it in. Like everybody's real. Everybody does these same
I'm safe
things.
then because I sometimes use wrong words and all of that.
Oh,
Good
trust me, that's come back to bite me in the rear a few times. I mean, Samantha, here we are. Like I am a 56-year-old person and trying to navigate social media. It really does. Like, I'm not saying I'm in the okay boomer crowd just yet, but I am so close to being okay boomer. How does one learn about this stuff? How does one, like, say you're a small market or you're a small business and you just want to get your name out there more? Like, where do you even begin with this? How do you learn how to do social media? How do you do that?
I think first and foremost, it's starting off with the one or two platforms that that your target audience is on. So for example, if I'm a B2B company and I'm really looking to speak to healthcare providers, I'm more likely going to really put my focus on LinkedIn, potentially TikTok, believe it or not. That's a fun platform to play around with.
Hey, don't tell me my doctors are spending their time on TikTok. Okay, that's like
That's a whole.
I'm
That'll
not
be
ready for
another
that.
show. We'll
I'm
do
not
an
ready.
expose on Doctors Gone Wild on TikTok. No, just kidding. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
It's adding, everybody thinks of when you think of a niche market such as that, they think of a doctor's office as sterile, cold. It's sometimes, depending on the type of doctor, can be scary. And I think TikTok adds in this this relatable feature for one that might be afraid to see this particular doctor, or it's
Mm.
just dropping, knowledge-based information or educational information in a way that people can digest it. Sometimes adding a bit of humor, even if it's a really heavy subject, I think really helps. I think overall, as a brand, or an influencer, it's number one, find your one or two places to start, your one or two platforms. Really know what type of content, have everything kind of planned out essentially. Prioritize and value engagement. Again, I have heard whether I'm doing an influencer marketing campaign or a social media campaign, I always hear, well, I want to get more followers. That's great. But if you have a following of 10K, 10,000 influencers, I should say, and you have an engagement rate of 9.5, chances are, which is very good, um, chances are your leads and your sales are through the roof versus 100K following and you have very little engagement. That means someone's not seeing your content or it's not resonating, it's not populating via SEO. So prioritize the value and engagement. I think using analytics smartly, regular check-in performance, seeing what's working and what's not. There are platforms like Sprout Social that this is by no way of me influencing them, but they're a great platform to use, and I personally love using them. Those are great tools to use, especially for those that might be new and on a budget. I would say just experiment, test formats, videos versus carousels, whatever's working, do more of. And having that kind of quarterly evaluation is really helpful. And
You know
then
what I
again,
just heard? I've got to hire someone, is what I heard. 'Cause
You
I'm
lost
like,
me at carousels. I knew everything
I
else.
don't know what those words mean. I don't.
Well, and here's the question, because I do think it's interesting to find out where your audience is, and that's a big one, obviously. Here's a question on the other side: what are the things absolutely not to do? What are the like big no-nos?
No-nos.
Stop, don't proceed.
I would say the biggest is do not buy followers. There are platforms such as Sprout Social and other platforms that can actually detect when someone might buy followers, so that increase in audience. They can detect spot accounts, and it really just overall, again, it's just a vanity metric is reach. It's the engagement and the community that matters most. I would say another big no-no is copying others. I've seen it too many times where, well, this brand does this and this works out well, let's try it. But that's not what works well for your brand. And then pushing products. So this more is on the influencer side, but pushing products you don't believe in. So for example, Mandy, if you hated Coca-Cola, I don't know if you're, I actually should know if you're a
I'm not
soda person.
anti-Coca-Cola at all. I'm
But if
not. I
you-
don't think I would. I would not necessarily promote a sugared beverage. Just I wouldn't do that. That's just not something I would do.
But chocolate, we're all in on.
Yes, 100%.
There you go. There you go. And your followers know that. So if you're pushing a product that you've never pushed before, you really try to stay away from, or you speak negatively about what type of, not even negatively, just smartly about sugar. And the next day you're posting about Coca-Cola, your audience is going to understand, great, she was paid to do this sponsorship.
I am going to throw J-Lo under the bus for just 1 second right now. J-Lo, we all know you don't look like J-Lo if you are out partying every night, right?
Right.
She eats clean, she works out like a maniac, and she's been very open about not drinking. And then she's promoting like a liquor brand or something. And I was like, J-Lo, what are we doing?
How much
Nobody's
did you
buying
get
what you're
paid?
selling.
Yeah.
It just felt like I could hear that check being written, and I kind of lost a little bit of respect for her.
Yeah, I love the term authentic. That's one of the things that's resonating that you've said is be authentic to who you are. So that makes a lot of sense.
What does it take, as we're kind of getting ready to wrap up here, like how long does it take someone to build a social media brand if they make it their full-time job? And in all honesty, in order to build it, it kind of has to be your full-time job.
Gosh, I would say, I mean, it really is. Number one, I see it too often where a brand may, a company may just want to hire somebody to do all things social media, create the content, post, plan, schedule, and that's certainly doable. But a lot of times they hire an intern working part-time, and those really are three separate positions. So having a plan in place in terms of how you're going to set up your marketing and or social team, and then having this person that's super knowledgeable that can really create that kind of content calendar, those content pieces, understand the audience, and really it's posting, it's really being consistent with what you're posting, the days that you're posting it, understanding what works for your audience, if they're engaging more at 2 p.m. versus 11 a.m., shifting and pivoting as that person's learning, but really just being consistent. That's the key piece. And I always go back to this, but community engagement. I see it too often where a brand has comments and they're not engaging in it, or really just trying to build community similar to how we do on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is all community, and it works.
So I need to go to my LinkedIn page more than once every 6 months, because that's literally how often I go to my LinkedIn page. I forget that I have one, and then I'm like,
Yes.
oh, look at me.
Well, I think
LinkedIn.
mine is like 7 months
There
or
you
8
go.
months probably. Well, this is all great. So at what point in time, final question I think, Samantha, is what point in time does somebody say, you know what, I need to hire Samantha or someone like you? When is that shift from, okay, I'm going to just start on my own, to I really need,
to I'm serious about this.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would say usually when something isn't working or they don't know where to start, it can be anything from a full-blown strategy to just they need someone to execute it day to day. Regardless of what that might be, if someone doesn't know where to start, the strategy could be a great place. And then really if campaigns aren't converting, something's not working, it's a good time to really kind of reach out to somebody that can really kind of hone in and audit those things and figure out what's going on.
Samantha Lay with Nova Collective, thank you so much for making time for us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Have a good day, ladies.
You.
Bye.
Appreciate it. Talking to Samantha reminds me of how,
how little we know about social media and how completely inept we are.
This is what happens when
any of it.
When you're yes, exactly. When you're a summer chicken, we did not grow up with this language. Versus our daughter, I got to brag on her for a moment. She is a Gen Zer, and she has her own business. And man, she will do
it's like
a
second
video.
nature.
They grew up speaking this language.
Yes.
And many people may think, oh, I don't need that. But I think it helps in anything you're doing. If you're a small business owner, if you want to make more of an impact, if you're a volunteer for a charity and you want to get the word out there. But I love this authentic because we certainly are that here.
Well, and here's the thing that I will tell you after being on the radio for way too many years, well before the internet. The whole thing about authenticity
before the
internet,
the computer. No,
before motorized vehicles.
Okay, there, yeah.
No, I mean it is really hard to adapt. And if you do own a small business, or maybe you have a cottage industry business out of your house, don't try to do something that feels like it's not you, like you're wearing someone else's clothes, because that's how it's going to come across. Right. You're much better if you are a deadpan, monotone person. You are so much better delivering those lines, even if your future wife cannot understand them. And that's
a personal story.
That's a throwback to a story we just told off the air that now I'm going to make Deborah tell next time.
Okay, I will tell it next time. But one last thing I was going to say is, social media is it's a two-edged sword.
Yes.
So we're not saying go on more just to read stuff that takes you down or get lost in the abyss. But I think it's also an amazing tool when you know how to use it right.
You got to have purpose.
Yeah, you do have to have purpose.
Must be purpose.
Yes, indeed. All right. Well, we're going to move on. Talk about purpose. We're going on to good news.
I printed out my good news so I didn't get these stories wrong.
That is good news because Mandy's on top of it now.
Well, Mandy had a little extra time this week, so she's a little more organized than normal.
Yes,
so there
indeed.
you go.
Do you want to kick it off?
I will kick it off because I have it printed out right here. Even though after I saw this story and I decided to do it, I looked at the boys' names and I was like,
can I pronounce them?
Bad choice. I don't know. Okay, let me tell you about brothers Vivaan and Sarang Sankriti.
You know what? Hey, they're not here to correct you.
Vivaan.
So it could be correct.
So sorry. They've been playing chess since they were little kids, like toddlers.
Wow.
And now they're in, middle school age, about that age, and they are competing on a regular basis in these chess tournaments. So after a classmate of theirs had done a fundraiser to raise money for 10-year-old Atlas Kaya. Atlas has been suffering from chronic pancreatitis since age 4. There is no known cure for the disease. And since 10-year-old, he's had it for 6 years. He's been hospitalized 17 times in the past year. So after hearing about a fundraiser from a mutual friend, these two boys decided they were going to donate all of their chess winnings to an organization called Mission Cure. That is an organization working to find a cure for pancreatitis. And at the next tournament, 7-year-old Vivaan placed first in his section. He earned $225 that he immediately donated to the cause. And Atlas's mom said the fact that it's a little kid who, I don't know if you guys have ever taken a little kid with $20 to the dollar store, but let me tell you, that money is burning a hole in their pockets.
Yes.
And they said that makes it extra special, that it was a boy, a little boy that said, we want to help you get better. And it's just like, kids, I'm not one of those people who think kids have all the answers. But the way that kids see something neat and kind and wonderful and just go, ooh, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
We need a little more of that.
It reminds me of what our son, I'll never forget when he was, he must have been like 6 or 7 years old. I mean, he was 7 years old. I think he was like in first grade or second grade. And they had a fundraiser at their elementary school for, it was a Christian elementary school, and they were going to give to other children that were in, some third world country where they did not have anything. And I'll never forget, without us asking, he unloads his entire piggy bank every last penny, puts it in his bag, probably amounted to like $6.
You know what?
And
$6 was a lot of money.
it was. I even said to him, and I was like, oh, I need to pull that back. I said, are you sure you want to give it all? And he's like, yes. And he went and he gave it, and he got tearful because he said he felt so good about doing that. And I thought, my goodness, I will never second guess again when somebody wants to do that. So anyway, it is amazing to watch, but no, they don't have all the answers.
No, they do not.
Other things.
Oh,
They've
we've
got
got
the
to talk
heart.
about the fact that they're going to be able to vote in Britain, 16 and 17-year-olds. We'll throw that for a future show.
Oh my gosh, that is kind
Just
of
thought about
troubling.
that
Okay,
one.
so here is mine. I'm going to go the other end of the spectrum. So
Okay.
you're talking about young kids. I want to share, as we're winding the summer down, there's this amazing one-of-a-kind, I don't know if it's been duplicated elsewhere, summer camp that it started in California, Fullerton, California. And it's actually called the Golden Connections Club. And the reason why it's so interesting is because it's an intergenerational camp. So how it came about was there was this young woman, she's a high school sophomore, and her name is Lena Albinali. So I got a fun name to say too,
yeah.
Lena Albinali. And what she realized is she grew up around her grandmother all the time. And she learned so much from her grandmother, cooking, baking, sewing, all this. And then she talked to some of her friends who realized they don't have multiple generations around them.
Right.
And most people today don't. They're not near their family. So she happened to find out a local community center with the what's called Golden Connections Club has a program for seniors so that they feel active, have purpose, and so they can help combat loneliness, which is so rampant amongst older folks as seniors. So what they did is they partnered together. Lena got several of her peers to volunteer. They started a summer camp where they go and they meet every week, basically, throughout the summer with some of the senior citizens there. And what's amazing is these young people are learning, how to cook, how to sew on a button, how to do all these different things. And they said the result has been what they called a lot of laughter and a lot of seams that kind of go the wrong direction and things. But it's an amazing way to come together generationally. And she said that, not only did the young people say, wow, I've learned something, and it's not just about the relationships, about the learned skill, it's about the relationships. One camper said, I thought it was just going to be cooking, but I didn't expect to make a new friend who is 80 years old. And then the people that organize the senior center said they have really witnessed a huge growth in vitality and a decrease in loneliness of these seniors who realize they have learned skills.
Yeah.
Somebody is listening to them and they're contributing. I just think it's a win-win every way you look at it.
One of the things I think we do wrong in this country
Yeah.
is we don't do multi-generational households. And there's so
Agreed.
many nations around the world and different cultures. I'm not just talking about in Europe or in the Middle East or in Asia, but there are so many cultures where intergenerational and multi-generational households are the norm.
Yes.
And you don't move out until you get married,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So I think that we need to do more of that. And there's a similar thing, and I want to say it's like in Amsterdam. I don't know exactly where it is, but it is a daycare center on the ground floor of a nursing home.
Yes.
And the older folks will come down and they'll spend time with the little babies and the little toddlers. It's great for everybody.
Well, it is because we have a culture that doesn't respect
Correct.
seniors the way that we should. And it reminds me, one of my favorite traditions when our kids were little, we ended up, and somebody else organized this in our church, and I thought it was phenomenal. When we went trick-or-treating, and this is when, the kids are adorable. I mean, they're cuter than the candy you give out. You just want to chew on them, right? Well, instead of just immediately going to the neighborhood, the first pass-through was a local retirement community, and the kids went around trick-or-treating there. So all those who couldn't get out and give out candy got to see them. And, and it was interesting to watch the kids because at first they'd see somebody that was a little older and they weren't quite sure what to do, or somebody in a
or with
wheelchair.
a cane or a walker or
but-
something like that.
But just the way kids are, they'd go, why are you in a wheelchair? And it suddenly it was just this beautiful thing. So I think we need more of that. So
Amen to that.
Your kindness challenge.
My act of kindness, I love this one, and I'm plotting how I know exactly where my note is going to go.
Oh,
okay.
I'm intrigued.
I read this. Leave a positive note for a stranger to find.
Oh, interesting.
Just a little note saying, something like, I hope your day is great. I hope, God thinks you're important enough to be here. Just whatever it is. Some generic thank you. Have you ever found like a surprise thing?
Yes.
We were hiking once and I found a painted rock.
Oh, that's
And all
neat.
it said was, you rock on the rock. And I can't tell you how much joy that dang rock gave me. I didn't pick it up. I left it for the next person.
Yeah, there you go.
But it was so random and so silly and so dumb. And it just made my day better. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, I know where I'm going to leave my note.
There we go. I hope I find it.
Okay.
I'm not a stranger, though, so that won't work. And mine kind of ties in with my good news story. You know, so often the greatest treasure we have are the experiences and the knowledge and the wisdom of those who are in the senior community around us. And they don't often get to share it. And my husband has always been good with this with our kids. When he sees somebody older, he'll ask them a question and get them talking and all of that. And so my challenge is this. Maybe it's someone in your own family, an older relative. Maybe it's a neighbor. Make time to reach out to them and ask them questions and just listen. Ask them a question about their childhood. Ask them a question about what did they learn that was the biggest experience in their life, their greatest joy, their greatest sadness. And not only will you bless them because they've had an opportunity to feel like they're heard, you'll get blessed because you'll learn something that comes only from a lifetime of wisdom. So find that person, give them a call, go visit, bring some cookies maybe, and listen.
I love, there's a YouTube channel. This guy, Sprout is the name of the YouTube channel. Excuse me, I was choking that in. The whole time you were talking, I was trying to make that not happen. All he does is interview old people.
Oh.
And I was kind of having a little bit of an existential crisis before my 56th birthday because who wants to turn 56? That's so weird. It's such a weird age, right? And one of his videos popped up and it was this woman who's 105.
Oh, okay.
And he's talking to her and
getting
she's from
older.
New York, you know, and he's talking to her. He goes, well, what about your dream of singing when you were a child? And she goes, oh, it's gone. It's woulda, coulda, shoulda. And he said, well, what if somebody's like 50 or, 55 or 45? And she goes, oh, at 55, you got your whole life ahead of you. And I was like, what?
Perspective.
Yes.
That's always helpful. I love it.
Thank you, little old lady.
There we
You
go.
just made my day better. Anyway.
Well, thank you. Well, do visit us on Facebook.
Do subscribe. Hit the button.
Right there. And go to Facebook at Mandy &Deb. Share some of your good news stories. We want to engage authentically with you because we learned that today.
Yes.
So please do. And most of all, we just wish that you have a wonderful day. And we wish you all the best.
Bye, guys.